Let's go ahead and count this bitch in before we start. Got all our shit ready. Got our topics going. All right. Gunline. We got a fire mission coming down, y'all. I'm your host, Lopez, and you're listening to the On the Gunline podcast, where we just chop it up and shoot the shit like we would out in the field. So go on and pop a squat because it's about to get hot. You are on the Gunline now. Thank you for joining me here today. It's Monday. It's about 1:30, which means I got about 45 minutes before I have to go pick up my kids. So let's get this bad boy on the road. First things first, I want to go ahead and start with some shout outs. All right. First thing, shout out to Dimitri and all the Southside Chicago crazy Kowalski crew. Okay. That listen and support the podcast. Dimitri's been one of the listeners since the day ones. Back when K Wall was one of the co-hosts, and he's still stuck with us over here. So shout out to Dimitri and the boys out there in the South Side of Chicago. Appreciate y'all listening. And I'm always here. If you guys want to send me some topics to talk about, I got y'all, man. Also, I want to go ahead and send a shout out to Doggle. Been multiple times a guest on the podcast. He submitted a couple of suggestions for the pod today, and I'm gonna go ahead and get those going. They're gonna be the first ones on the shoot. And then I want to give another shout out to Campos, who was here recently, Vincent. He sent me an article as well regarding the artillery, and we're gonna go ahead and read that as well. And last but not least, I want to send a big shout out to the homie Sergeant First Class Ronald Watts. I've known Watts since he was a private back in the day in Korea, and it's great to see him doing great things and good things. And he also sent me an article that was very interesting, and it's a long one. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a long one, but it's very interesting, especially if you were an artilleryman. It has to do with the fucking concussions of the blast and how it fucks with your mental down to the motherfucking beyond the microscopic level, yo. And it's been affecting a lot of artillerymen to the point where they've been, unaliving themselves, as people like to say. So yeah, we'll go ahead and read that as well. I'll just figure out where it's gonna slide in. But yeah, man, I'd like to once again say thank you for being here with me. If you're watching me on the YouTubes, if this is your first time, do me a favor, man. Just do me a quick solid and hit a like. And if you can, subscribe, and then just listen to the first maybe couple of minutes of it just to get that algorithm going. It definitely helps out. I've been trying to learn how to watch my tongue, so that we can get pushed out a little bit more. However, I still refuse to filter, edit, censor, or hold myself back or my guests when they come on here, because that's the whole point of the gun line. Being yourself, talking how you talk, doing what you do. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, with that being said, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Why is it called the gun line? Because usually when you're on the gun line, after you're done with fire missions and shit like that, you're calling it a day. You want to go have some good conversations. And trust me, there's no better conversations than the ones you will have on the gun line. You learn a lot about your fucking battle buddies when you're out there, bro. So, for example, you could go to the one gun section and they're out there talking about, how their ex-wife did them dirty with Jody and is now emptying their bank account. Then you can go to another one where you can talk about how you'll find the medical where they're talking about how he was dating a double amputee and beating them guts. I've heard it. You can go to another one and find out that all those motherfuckers for some reason have pink eye. Oh my God, dude, I remember that. One of my last field problems out of Fort Carson, the whole gun line started just getting fucking pink eye. It started with the FDC. Somebody in the FDC had pink eye, and that shit started spreading like fucking herpes, yo. But herpes in the barracks. If y'all hear a dog barking in the background, that's my dog. And but yeah. And then sometimes you can go walk up under a net and come to my section and you'll hear a conversation like we're having here today. And we're gonna go ahead and start out with these jarheads. Our brethren, our Uncle Sam's misguided children. Apparently they were out there in I guess it was Austin. And They were hanging out, having a party. It must have been the Marine Corps birthday or some shit, some kind of ball going on. And some civilians decided to act up. And well, it didn't end up well for the civilians. First of all, you should not walk up to a bunch of fucking jarheads and try to start a fight. You will lose. 100% of the fucking time, you will lose. Well, I can't say 100% of the time because I remember when I was younger, I used to go to TJ, and when I was in Job Corps, I was right there in Imperial Beach, California, right there by Chula Vista. This is back in '95, and we used to go to TJ to go party. And for those that don't know, TJ is Tijuana, and right by there is motherfucking Camp Pendleton. So what ends up happening? Well, you get a bunch of fucking drunk teenagers and a bunch of, who may or may not be street related, we could say. And then you have them run into a bunch of drunk fucking jarheads, and some fighting does break out, and we whoop their asses. We whoop their ass right down the bridge. Anyways, that was a long time ago. But anyways, I digress. I guess that's what they say. But yeah, I mean, there's video of this, and let me see if I can go ahead and pull it up. And so this was sent to us by Doggle, the homie. So let me see, is this the one? Yeah, let's see. Let me go ahead and push play on this. See, already, I mean, there's first of all, you're looking at a bunch of fucking privates or lance corporals at the most there. You know what I'm saying? So they're already fucking drunk as fuck. What's up with Homeboy with that hair, dude? That motherfucker got a barracks cut, yo. I don't know if you guys are watching this or not, but old boy got a barracks cut. That is hardcore barracks cut, chief. You could have just gone to the motherfucking PX and get that taken care of. So right here, what I'm looking at, I got a bunch of motherfucking privates, and there's some other thugged out looking motherfucker looking like he wants to start some shit with these privates. And this other motherfucker that's got the goddamn same barracks cut. Do y'all not have barbers in the goddamn? You know what? You saving your money to go to the fucking ball. I get it. That's probably where all the money went. So I'm tracking because privates don't get paid a lot. No, they don't. And you can see homeboy is picking up his pants like he's like do something on the left. And the white boy jarhead, he's definitely got the I'm a super hoorah crayon eater look going on. And probably raised down south where they don't get many of them boys down there. And what happens here? Oh, they cut away from it. And now all I see is somebody getting beat down. Did I miss the ass whooping? Let's see. Yeah, they're not showing the ass beating. They're just showing the aftermath. It looks like somebody has a scooter. The cops are pushing everybody away. And looks like they're arresting old Thugnificent over there. And some jarhead lost his shoes. So the cop is playing Cinderella looking for the motherfucking Cinder Jarhead. Where are you? All right. And I guess we get to miss the fight. But Doggo, thank you for that. Yeah, definitely don't go fucking with jarheads, y'all. It's ridiculously retarded to do that. You're gonna end up getting your ass whooped. It's gonna happen. Even, I mean, you could even try doing that with some Air Force cats, and you'll probably get I don't know, Air Force. They'll probably just fly out that motherfucker. Pun intended. Definitely don't try that with jarheads. Definitely don't try that with fucking Army. I wouldn't even try it with the fucking sailors, because sailors, they get down. They are fighters. You know what I'm saying? You ever seen those fucking gay fights on TV? Just add alcohol to that. All right, and uniforms, and that's what you got right there. Shout out to the motherfucking Navy, yo. But I don't see that happening with the Air Force. Air Force, y'all could probably fucking beat them up. Y'all could, rob them at fist point. as I think it was Royce the 5'9" said. So with that, I appreciate that, Doggle. Thank you for that suggestion. And also, he did suggest another article, which I find to be fucking hilarious, by the way. Can somebody explain to me? Please explain to me why the fuck the army all of a sudden wants to start bringing back motherfuckers they kicked out because of the Rona. I mean, that's like, I don't even know what to compare that to, bro. I mean, it's like you kicked me out because I wanted to be here, but I wouldn't take your shitty ass fucking shot, which had no backing on it. And then you threw me out. You probably gave me other than honorable, which sucks 'cause it's not an honorable fucking discharge. And that shit gets looked at. If motherfuckers look at it, they're gonna be wondering, like, what the fuck did you do? So that's why, well, let's go ahead and read what this shit says. So you guys have to deal with my reading today, all right? First of all, there's a picture of a white broad with a mask on. Looks like she's getting a shot by some dude that needs a motherfucking haircut or hair gel. These hair standards are fucking killing me. At least the female's got her fucking hair done. The dude on the right, what the fuck is going on there, guy? Good fucking night, yo. All right, so according to this, if you guys are watching, you could read with me. If you guys are just listening, you could hear my sexy ass voice as I read the following. So, soldiers who were forced out of the army for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine have received letters with instructions on how to rejoin as the services face its toughest recruiting environment in a generation. Gee, I wonder why. Why are we having such problems recruiting people? Is it because, first of all, we got some shitty ass recruiting videos? Well, finally, they seem to be coming up with some that are better. You brought back Be All That You Can Be, but you still got the exploding asshole looking as a fucking star for us. I gotta go let this dog in. Give me one fucking second, y'all. This dog is fucking killing me. All right, and we are back. I do apologize for that. I know it didn't take long for you all, but I had to get these motherfucking mutts inside, and that was really starting to piss me the fuck off. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Army. You fucking went ahead and kicked all these motherfuckers out who wanted to be in the military, and then all of a sudden, they weren't good enough for you. It kind of reminds me of when we deployed to Mosul back in 2009, 2010. We had this one big boy soldier, all right, big old Loomis. Loomis was a fucking big boy. I'm talking about big boy. And but that motherfucker was a hard working motherfucker. He was a beast when it came down to working. There wasn't, you couldn't tell that dude to do that he wouldn't do. He would knock shit out. And god damn it, he was a hell of a good soldier all around. However, it pissed me off that after we got hit, where was that? In Al Mansour, in the Al Mansour area of Mosul. Um, that was the day that Easy caught the shrapnel. Easy and Beakus. It got Easy, Beakus, and the medic, and fucking what the fuck was his name? Braglin. And those four they got their Purple Hearts that day because RKG3. Anyways, what ends up happening is everybody, everybody handled their business that day. And for those that didn't have one already, a combat action badge, who hadn't earned one yet, they were eligible for one for that mission that day. Well, since Loomis is a big homie, well, he's a pretty big dude. And I'm talking about big, y'all. All right, I'm talking about big. They didn't want him to line up to receive a coin from General Odierno. He was put in for one because General Odierno was coming over to go ahead and pin the fucking Purple Hearts on those that earned them that day. And we had submitted Loomis for a coin that day, and they were like, no, because he's too big, and we don't want him in that formation. So I believe that the thought was put somebody else in his place in there, and let that person receive that coin, and then give it to Loomis. And then they didn't want to give him his motherfucking his combat action badge, which was earned, and they didn't want to give him his motherfucking end of tour award, which was fucking earned. Now, here's my point. Okay, if this motherfucker would have died out there, are you gonna tell me that you guys wouldn't have awarded him his Purple Heart or his motherfucking or whatever dues he would get? I mean, he's good enough to take out there as a body, right? He's good enough to fucking handle a motherfucking 249 when he had to, but God forbid that he's a little bit too big to. But he was out there doing his motherfucking job, and that's what pissed me off. You know what I mean? That's what really pissed me. And it's not like this boy didn't try to. He was trying. The motherfucker was trying. Just some people are just big bone like that. And he was like that. He was just a big bone cat. And goddamn, that motherfucker was nasty with that goddamn chew, that dip. That fool would literally horseshoe that shit around his motherfucking arm. Then he would take it out and put it back in the fucking case for later. That shit was crazy, y'all. I mean, I'm not a dipper. I don't know if that's how that shit works. But, anyways, I digress. I come back. I mean, he was a good soldier, man. And it just goes to show you that, the military will get what they want out of you and then chew your ass and spit you back out and not give two fucks about you. But when they need you, they're gonna go ahead and try to call you back and try to sweeten the pot. So let's see what they said on here. So as a result of the rescission of all current COVID-19 vaccination requirements, former soldiers who were involuntarily separated for their refusal to receive the COVID-19 vaccination may request a correction of their military records, according to a letter signed by Brigadier General Hope Rampey, Army Director of Personnel Management. I guarantee you that's a woman on the name Hope. And then personnel management, bitch, she's in charge of a fucking S1s. Anywho, so great. So let's see. When they kicked you out, basically on your DD 214, they tell you what kind of motherfucking what kind of a discharge you got. So I'm guessing that's what they have to correct so that they could change their other than honorable to honorable. That's fucked up. They're gonna change your shit because you refused to get a fucking vaccine, which was not 100% fucking. I'm sorry, that shit was brought up within a fucking year, yo. Ain't no fucking way, bro. Ain't no fucking way. Try it on inmates first, all right? Hey, sorry to the incarcerated folks. Try it on the motherfucking inmates and in the death row. You know what I'm saying? Use it on them. See if it works. Shit. Fuck that. You know what? I wonder how would that work? Let's say if it was mandated for motherfuckers in prison and motherfuckers didn't want to get it, then what? Would you set them free? Or would you send them to a different? That's a good fucking question. By the way, that prison genre is fucking blowing up right now, dude. There's this one dude I've been watching, Dub S or Dubs. That motherfucker gets down, man. I like the way he does his content because it's not glorifying that gangster or prison lifestyle. It's actually trying to educate motherfuckers. And also, I dig how he doesn't go out there naming names like some other of these channels that I've been seeing. So if you're into that prison genre, I highly recommend or you like hearing like prison stories and stuff like that, inmate, incarcerated stuff, go check out Dub S, DUBSS, or just put Dubs. You can't miss him. Motherfuckers straight. He might look a little haji because of the beard and shit, and he might look like he's gonna say Allahu Akbar, but nah, he's Rasa. So, anyways, I digress. I go back to this shit here. Fucking COVID-19 kicked out by the army now because they can't make their numbers or even retain the numbers they have. They want to go ahead and call out motherfuckers that came back or to come back. So it also instructs soldiers looking to return to service to contact an Army Reserve, or National Guard recruiter. It was not immediately clear to an Army spokesperson if soldiers who rejoin would return to their former unit or MOS. Oh, okay. So you don't even know if you're going to go back into your old MOS. That'll be like me going and getting out as a 13 banger, staff sergeant type. And then I'm going to be like, hey, you know what? How about you come back in? We'll bring you down as a E5, but we'll throw you in motherfucking in supply. Nah, chief, it ain't gonna work out like that. Because the way it is sounding, though, to be honest, they're gonna fucking try to fill in slots and they're gonna try to bullshit you and tell you go to that they're gonna need you in this MOS needs of the army type shit. So don't fall for the okie doke, y'all. Don't fall for the okie doke. If you're gonna do it, make sure you fucking get what you can out of them. So let's see. In October, CNN reported that only 43 of over 8,000 troops across the entire military had been discharged for the vaccine and had showed interest to rejoin. So only 43 out of 8,000 motherfuckers showed interest. All right. As of September, 19 soldiers returned to active duty, according to the Army. They gotcha, baby. I'd love to hear what their process was like. So if anybody knows any of those 19 soldiers, hey, tell them to hit me up on the gunline at gmail.com. I'd love to have them here, see what that process was like. So the letter comes as the U.S. Army is dealing with a recruitment crisis. The service missed its recruiting goals for the past year by nearly 15,000 soldiers. A lack of interest from Gen Z to joining the military, with many citing factors as broad as the economy and job market, to factors as specific as the service's struggles with sexual assault and suicide within the ranks. All right, so we're gonna talk about that suicide thing here later regarding one of the fucking articles that was submitted to me. And that one tripped me out, especially for artillery, man. It's not something that I would have even correlated to, but it was pretty interesting. And I'm gonna go ahead and that's gonna be a pretty long read, just to let y'all know. So let's see. The job market. I mean, is the job market really that good out here? I mean, you know what? I mean, motherfuckers flipping burgers are making $20 an hour. So fuck it. But see, I joined the military because I wanted to do military shit. Who's gonna join the military? Again, this is just me. I joined because I wanted to do military shit. All right. Like I wanted to blow shit up. I wanted to do things in the military that I knew I wouldn't be able to do in the civilian sector. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I joined the combat MOS. And I had no fucking illusions that when I got out, because my plan was to do all 20. I had no illusions of coming out and, getting a fucking CEO job or anything like that. I came out knowing that there was going to be nothing that was akin to what I was doing in the military, which is fine with me. But then again, I thought about just doing all 20, getting the fuck out, and then just living my life. Let me ask y'all, out of all if for my listeners out there, if any of you are retired after 20, did you stay retired, and just living off the VA in your retirement? Or did you decide to supplement your retirement by getting a job? I'll tell you what, I fucked up and got a job, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just, that way I could have made do with what I was getting and lived within that means financially. But I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Maybe one day this podcast will blow up and I'll be able to monetize shit, right? Anywho, let me know though if you did, and how you're doing with it. I know me personally, I'm starting to get better with being home. I've been now completely retired since February, and it gives me a lot more time with the kids. So that definitely is super beneficial. So anyways, question to you all out there again. Once you're done with your 20, do you plan on just staying retired and just living off of that, what you're getting from the government? Or, are you going to be trying to be more financially stable or financially, if you're trying to get rich, man, if that's what you're trying to do, let me know. Me, I wish I would have stayed unemployed, but not unemployed, retired, I guess you could say, just getting what I get. That way I would have stayed that way it wouldn't be hurting as much right now, since I decided to quit a year earlier than I was supposed to. That's a long story. It's nor here nor there. Maybe I'll get into that on another podcast, but if y'all want to hear about that. But anyways, so yeah, thanks Dago for this submission here. I think that the Army it basically shot itself in the foot when they decided to start kicking motherfuckers out over the goddamn COVID-19 vaccine. They should have let it play out, but I'm telling you, man, I guarantee you that the government had put too much money into it, so they needed to get rid of that shit. They had to get rid of it. They had to get rid of it, and the only way to justify that purchase was to fucking start jabbing motherfuckers in the military, which is bullshit. I think it's really fucked up that they use this for a lot of their political fucking pawns. Every time I see something like, let's say with the NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, right? They go through this shit every year. Why can't they just make it a standalone bill that they're putting together? Why does it have to be attached to some other bill that is fucking critical, or is one of those fucking what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of those bills that is controversial. You know, you want one of those controversial bills, handle that on their own. Let the NDAA be on its own, because then they're gonna be like, oh, you don't support the veterans because you won't pass this bill. Well, no, it's not that I don't support veterans. I just don't support that attachment that you put on that shit. You know what I mean? I'm all about fucking giving an increase in percentage of payment for the veterans. However, comma, I'm not in favor of fucking putting in an extra $1 billion to fucking fund welfare when it's, anyways, it's shit like that that gets on my goddamn nerves. So, anywho, that's where I don't even know how I got there, bro. So y'all know my brain's fucked up. And again, we're gonna touch on that on this motherfucking with this article, because that shit was fucking crazy. But that artillery shit, man, I tell you, it's tough, man. It's tough on the body and it's tough on the motherfucking brain. We don't get enough props. We don't get enough props for what we do in the field artillery. And as a matter of fact, Campos, who's a friend of the pod and been a guest on the pod as well, he sent me a video to look at. And this video, it was regarding how in a lot of like military films, they always focus on the infantry or the hand-to-hand combat, or they develop the characters that are like right there. And I get it, because you get all the action and whatnot from there, but it doesn't really show the impact that the field artillery has on the battlefield as the king of fucking battle. All right. We are the king for a motherfucking reason. And I'm gonna read you a few things that I just found out. So for example, and this is from that dude. Uh I wish I could find, if I found it, I'll tell you where it was from. But anyways, it turns out that artillery gets so fucking downplayed. Yet in World War One, all right, during the Battle of Verdun, which lasted about 10 or 11 months, there were up to 800,000 killed in action in that battle. All right. There were over 50 million rounds shot during that fucking battle. 800,000 KIA during that battle. 70% of those killed came from artillery, y'all. That's the reason we're the motherfucking king, baby. We are the king of battle because we blow shit up. And you can tell why those motherfuckers in World War One, they came back. I mean, shit, they hear incoming, they starting to go under tables. They call it back then shell shock. So yeah, that's one right there. 70% of the 800,000 KIA were from artillery, all right, in the Battle of Verdun. Over 2 million rounds were fired in the initial motherfucking German barrage. That's fucking crazy, y'all. Then, during World War II, at the southern gates, um, which I get, southern gates of Berlin, that's what it was. The motherfucking Russians, y'all. These motherfucking Russians lined up 18 miles of guns across the border, y'all. 9,000 Soviet fucking guns, y'all. And then when they set fire, there were over 500,000 rounds that were fired at the Germans within the first 30 minutes. But apparently it wasn't as effective as it should have been, because the Germans had caught on and they were hit the game that the motherfucking Russians were coming with that goddamn big guns. And can you just imagine the amount of wolf pussy in the air, though? Oh my god, that shit, motherfuckers have been choking on that shit, bro. I would just love it, though. I mean, just a continuous round, just boom, boom. Yeah, anybody who was an artilleryman out there and was ever on the gun line, you know that the best shit is when you have that continuous fire. And I only got to experience that one real time, and that was in Fort Hood when I was a private. And it was one of the last field problems before we deployed. And I mean, it came down to pretty much expend all ammo. And it was just fucking, the number one mans were having a fucking field day that day. I mean, it was fucking Cruz, Quintero, Bricker, and I think Granice might have been the number one man in his gun. And they were just fucking just booming shit out, man. It was fucking badass out of far, in our platoon. The other platoons, I don't know who their fucking number one mans were. But they had some good ass chiefs out there. But I tell you, that was one of the best ones, because it was just boom, boom, boom. And just, it was cool, man. And you have to run the rounds back to their asses over there. And I remember Smoke Norwood walking around with my chief and shit. My chief at the time was Sergeant. Well, he was then back then Staff Sergeant Taylor, and my chief was Sergeant First Class. My Smoke was Sergeant First Class Norwood. Anyway, they walking around and shit, talking about how to fuck around with the M16 and make that shit sound like it's an automatic. And this, we had blanks in there and motherfucking. So Smoke comes up to me like, "What you doing, Lopez?" And I'm like, just over here, Smoke, just smoking and just waiting to be called for another round. Like, okay. And then so I remember asking Smoke, can I ask you a question? He's like, "What you want, Lopez?" Like, Smoke, what's your job as a Smoke? What do you do? My chief gave me a look like, "What the fuck?" And then Smoke looked at me and is like, "What? My job is to walk around and call you an asshole. That's what my job is." Then he grabs my M16 and he's talking to fucking my chief, and he's like, "Let me show you something. This is how you make the gun, how you make an M16 sound like automatic." And they just start shooting my motherfucking the blanks in my M16. They put on 3-round burst. And then, of course, that doesn't sound good. Then my chief's like, "No, no, no, this is how it's done." So he grabs another magazine for me, puts it in, locks and load. Plop, 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 plop. So they're right there just using my fucking weapon because they're expending all ammo. We're getting ready to index. And lo and behold, after they finish shooting my fucking gun, they give me back my motherfucking M16. And then Smoke looks at me, he's like, "Now, don't forget to pick that shit up. See, Lopez, that's what the fuck I do. I tell you what the fuck to do." And anyway, him and my chief walked away. So long story short, never ask a platoon sergeant what the fuck his job is, because his job is to walk around and call you an asshole. Oh my God, Smoke Norwood. I had some good times with that, man. One time, the fucker said, "What you drinking Gatorade? Gatorade faggots." Y'all gotta understand this was back in the day, and this was also fucking he was talking to Thrill Kill, I think it was. Thrill Kill, if you ever listen to this shit, you remember that shit, right? You remember that story. But anywho, we're gonna go ahead and move on. So moving on from that, appreciate the fucking content. Campos, that was a really good fucking solid video. If I find it, I'll go ahead and put it up there. If not, do me a favor, Campos, if you hear this, go ahead and tag it in the comments to the this podcast once it's on the Facebooks, please. Anywho, y'all, I appreciate y'all still listening to me here. And now I want to go ahead and discuss one more thing. All right. And this is going to be shout out to the homeboy Watts again, man. Watts, I'm really glad you sent me this. This is going to take a big chunk of our conversation right now. Holy shit, I just realized I'm still haven't minimized this shit out of the way. Give me 1 second, y'all. Shit. Stop sharing. All right, so I did stop sharing now. With that being said, y'all, so check this out, dude. I also put this article up on the Gunline Facebook. So if you go to the On the Gunline Facebook, you'll be able to see it there and read it there if you like. It's just basically it's going to be on the Gunline, ON space THE space GUNLINE. I get Gunline supposed to be 2 different words, but I don't put it like that. It's 1 word, Gunline. All right. With that said, let's go ahead and get this story going. All right. So basically, what it boiled down to, I'll give you a quick synopsis of this shit. It kind of sounds like from what I gathered out of this article is that there's been a lot of artillerymen who have come back from their duties or from overseas or whatnot, and have been found to have like PTSD or some kind of psychological issues, or needing to go visit the shrink, but yet have never been exposed to anything traumatic as far as like that will cause the PTSD. So now, don't get it twisted. There's artillerymen out there that unfortunately did not have the opportunity to do their job while in country. For example, this guy. My job was in the 1114s on my first deployment, and we had some events that occurred. Then on my second deployment, which was in Mosul. So the first one was Baghdad, the second one was Mosul. We were in MRAPs in Mosul, and on that one, we had a couple of incidents as well. I was the dismount NCOIC at the time, and again, had some incidents that occurred, but I got to fire as well. The only problem with that is, well, I think this is more geared. This article is more geared to those that were on towed howitzers versus paladins. We were on paladins in Mosul. And the reason I say that is because you don't get the concussion blast in a paladin as you would if you were on a 119 or a 777 or a 19 or 8. So with that being said, let me go ahead and start getting this story going. I may have to pause in a bit because I have to go pick up my kids, but
About dinner.
I want to go ahead and start reading this
So
shit here for you.
let's
All
go
right,
ahead
give
and
me 1 second and
keep on
please,
going here.
So what I'm going to read to you all now is going to be an article that was written by this one dude named Dave Phillips. And hi, hon. What is that? Oh, right on. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, I'm gonna finish my podcast and then we're gonna do dinner. Okay. All right, handle your business. Leave my charger. All right, so sorry about that, kids out here. So, anyways, this article was out of the New York Times. I saw that one of my old commanders had posted it on shared it on his Facebook, but I couldn't open it because it was from the New York Times and they wanted you to buy in and shit. But luckily, the homie over here, friend of the podcast, old Ronald Watts, Sergeant First Class type, um, who I've known for a long, long time, sent it to me via email. So, and if you want to go ahead and send me articles like this to read out that are interesting, send them over to me, man. You just have to deal with my dumbass reading. But anyway, so it starts off with many U.S. troops who fired vast numbers of artillery rounds against the Islamic State developed mysterious, life-shattering mental and physical problems, but the military struggled to understand what was wrong. I don't think they struggled to understand what was wrong. They just ignored it, and they still do. We all know. So, anyways, this is a story by Dave Phillips, and it was published on the 5th of November, 2023. And it starts off with the following. When Javier Ortiz came home from a secret mission in Syria, the ghost of a dead girl appeared to him in his kitchen. She was pale and covered in chalky dust, as if hit by an explosion. Her eyes stared at him with a glare as dark and heavy as oil. The 21-year-old Marine was part of an artillery gun crew that fought against the Islamic State, and he knew that his unit's huge cannons had killed hundreds of enemy fighters. The ghost, he was sure, was their revenge. That's pretty fucked up for ICE to do something like that. I mean, you were fighting, homie. Why you got to go send a motherfucking a ghost to haunt the homies and shit? And by big guns, if I'm not mistaken, the Marine Corps does use M777s, so those will be the big guns, big 155 heavy hitting motherfuckers. Anywho, so the 21-year-old Marine was part of an artillery gun crew that fought against the Islamic State. Okay, I already read that part. And a shiver went through him. He backed into another room in his apartment near Camp Pendleton in California and flicked on the lights, certain that he was imagining things. She was still there. So even after he flicked the lights on, she was still there. It's not definitely one of those shadow people that fucking disappear. A few days later, in the barracks not far away, a 22-year-old Marine named Austin Powell pounded on his neighbor's door in tears and stammered, "There's something in my room. I'm hearing something in my room." And then his neighbor, Brady Zapoy, who's 20, searched the room but found nothing. These type of stories are not brand new, man. I remember hearing, hell, Hunt could tell you a story about, his ghost in his barracks. And so the homie Zapoy said, "It's all right. I've been having problems too," Lance Corporal Zapoy said, tapping his head. So he's been having those mental problems. The day before, he bent down to tie his boots and was floored by a sudden avalanche of emotion and overwhelming and bizarre emotions that he had no words for. "We'll go see Doc," he told his friend. "We'll get help." All right, so that's what his homie did. His homeboy, his homie Zapoy took Powell to go see the medic, to go get some help. That's good shit, man. You need to do that. That's a good homie. That's good looking out. Or as the Army says, battle buddy. I hate that fucking term. All through their unit, Alpha Battery, 1st Battalion, 11th Marines, troops came home feeling cursed. And the same thing was happening in other Marine and Army artillery units. So for all you jarheads and all you soldiers out there, man, for real, on the real side, if you start experiencing shit like this, you're not going to be the only one. If you're wondering why the fuck am I having these goddamn issues, but yet I didn't see any fucking combat, not, I mean, well, let me change it. If you didn't see any face to face shit, you know what I'm saying? You didn't see a motherfucker get blown up. You didn't see a motherfucker or another person getting killed. You weren't involved in a firefight. This kind of starts explaining things of why you're still having these psychological and emotional issues. All right. So, anyways, an investigation by the New York Times found that many troops sent to bombard the Islamic State in 2016 and 2017 returned to the United States plagued with nightmares, panic attacks, depressions, and in a few cases, hallucinations. Once reliable Marines turned unpredictable and strange. Some are now homeless. A striking number eventually died by suicide or tried to. You see, and that's the shit right there. I hope it doesn't that I know that this podcast is not big yet, and eventually it'll get there, but this is the type of stories that I do want to put out there as well. Look, man, just because you didn't see combat face to face, you know, doesn't mean that you still don't get fucked up because of your job. All right, especially again in the artillery realm. And again, this is going to explain to you why. So, interviews with more than 40 gun crew veterans and their families in 16 states found that the military repeatedly struggled to determine what was wrong after troops returned from Syria and Iraq. All the gun crews filled out the questionnaires to screen for post traumatic stress disorder and took tests to detect signs of traumatic brain injuries from enemy explosions. But the crews had been many miles away from the front lines when they fired their long range cannons, and most never saw direct fighting or suffered the kinds of combat injuries that the tests were designed to look for. A few gun crew members were eventually given diagnoses of PTSD, but to the gun crews, that didn't make much sense. They hadn't, in most cases, even seen the enemy. And see, that's the crazy part right there, dude. Like, okay, I'm gonna speak for myself. I didn't get to fucking shoot as much as I would have wanted to out there. However, that put me in a different time of duty. And I don't know if I already talked about this earlier because it's fucking, truth be told, is like the third time I recorded this. But with that said, a lot of artillery units during the war, we didn't get to shoot. We went out on fucking just support missions, fucking convoys, point A to point B, or presence patrols, or fucking, test out on PSDs. So, anyways, and yeah, we know we being out on the Humvees, out in the shit, you you are more than likely gonna get hit here and there, depending on where you were at. I was in Baghdad the first time in 0506. So if you know anything about Baghdad in 06, EFPs and IEDs were all over the fucking place. And then in Mosul, when we were there in 2009, we got hit with RKG3s. All right. So those are those fucking anti-tank grenades. So I wasn't in the place just playing dominoes. You know what I'm saying? We had some shit that resulted in some traumatic issues. But for the gun crews out there that were out there, let's say like in Afghanistan or like in Syria, or these fools that, they were actually handling their business with those 777s and 119ers and 198s, I think that this definitely speaks to them as to why they would have what they would call PTSD, even though it's not linked as PTSD. But again, it'll tell you more, because what basically boils down to is that the blast concussions were fucking up your brain. All right. So the only thing remarkable about the deployments was the sheer number of artillery rounds they fired. The United States had made a strategic decision to avoid sending large numbers of ground troops to fight the Islamic State, and instead relied on airstrikes and a handful of powerful artillery batteries to, as one retired general said at the time, pound the bejesus out of them. The strategy worked. The Islamic State positions were all but eradicated, but hardly any American troops were killed. But it meant that a small number of troops had to fire tens of thousands of high explosive shells, far more rounds per crew member, experts say, than any American artillery battery had fired at least since the Vietnam War. Military guidelines say that firing all those rounds was safe. What happened to the gun crews suggests that those guidelines were wrong. The cannon blasts were strong enough to hurl a 100-pound round 15 miles, and each unleashed a shock wave that shot through the gun crew members' bodies, vibrating bone, punching lungs and hearts, and whipping at cruise missile speeds to the most delicate organ of all, the brain. There you go. There it is right there. And dude, I remember they gave us motherfucking Kevlars that had a little monitor on the top. I don't know if they still made those, but they were supposed to be checking those for like concussions and shit. So yeah, dude, y'all hit me up. Let me know. Do they still make those Kevlars? When I first joined, we still had the fucking old school Kevlar with the goddamn leather around the forehead and the webbing. God damn, that shit was a beast to fuck with and clean. And then we got the ACH afterwards. So, but yeah, let me know. They eventually gave us some the Kevlars that had like the sponges on the side, and then under it had like a little sensor or some shit. It was supposed to be downloaded and checked it for concussions, but they never checked our shit. You know what I mean? I think they checked it one time, and that's when we were issued it. And then after that, that just went by the wayside. Last time I did anything with it was when I turned it back into CIF. You know what I mean? So yeah, go figure, right? And then as far as like the test that they give you when you come back from deployment, look, man, let's be fucking real. When we come back and we got to do that, those stupid things on the what is it, like the Met Pros, we're just trying to get the fuck out of there. So we're gonna put everything that gives us green lights. Nothing is gonna give us a red light. Because even if you put in there, you drink one beer every fucking week, it's gonna red flag your ass, and then you got to go and get the goddamn ASAP flyers. And do you have a drinking problem type? Fuck all that. We just want to click, 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 get us the fuck out of here so we can go on leave. So believe that. A lot of us did that shit in order to avoid fucking getting, Metros red or yellow or amber as it was called. Anyways, so more than a year after the Marines started experiencing problems, the Marine Corps leadership tried to piece together what was happening by ordering a study. One of the hardest hit units, Fox Battery, 2nd Battalion, 10th Marines. The research was limited to reviewing the troops' medical records. Of course, no Marines were examined or interviewed. Even so, the report published in 2019 made a startling finding. The gun crews were being hurt by their own weapons. I mean, yeah, we get it. Dude, I'll tell you one thing. We were supposed to wear fucking earplugs, all right? When we were out on the line. There's no way you can function with earplugs when you're out on the gun line. Sorry, it's not fucking happening. Why? Because I'm getting fucking data by voice, and I'm verifying data. You know what I'm saying? So there's no way with earplugs that my gun crew is organized chaos out there. So there's no way that a gun crew is going to be fucking able to know that I'm verifying or even check firing. God fucking forbid. Let's say you get fucking check fire, but since you got earplugs, you didn't hear that shit, and you just still running fucking rounds. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, if you wore earplugs on the gun line, let me know. Please let me know, because I know I never did. In the Paladin, there was no need because we had CVC helmets, and we would fucking communicate through that. But out in the fucking 119er world, when I was out there, I never wore it because honestly, I couldn't hear shit. I need to hear I need to hear the deflections. I need to hear the quadrants. I need to make sure shit's verified. I need to check the safety teams. You know what I'm saying? Everything is voice, So I got to hear the motherfucking HE round. I got to verify all the data before I send that fucking round down range because it's my rank that's going with that fucking round. And not only that, my freedom. And the last thing I wanted to hear was, Hey, gunline, gun section so and so, to a read of the piece, face to piece, fall in, because that's the last shit you want to hear as an artilleryman. Mm-mm. I only heard that shit one time in my life, and now, man, whew, my fucking stomach dropped for that dude. He's still the homie too. Luckily, it wasn't his fault. But anywho, with that said, where did I fucking continue? All right, da-da-da. Okay, so more than half the Marines in the battery had eventually received diagnosis of traumatic brain injuries (TBI), according to a briefing prepared for the Marine Corps headquarters. The report warned that the experience in Syria showed that firing a high number of rounds day after day could incapacitate crews faster than combat replacements can be trained to replace them. So, okay, combat, you should already be fucking ready to rip when fucking somebody's coming to replace you, especially if you're in a gun crew. You go in there, you fucking rip. You know what I'm saying? You rip out. It shouldn't take that long. They don't need to be trained. They know how to do their fucking job on their weapon system. Sorry, not sorry. But if you're sending a fucking section out there, they're already ready to fucking drop in place. Fucking all you got to do is brief out with the fucking chief. You should be able to switch out same motherfucking day. You know what I mean? I mean, all you got to do is, anywho, if you know, you know. It shouldn't take that long. Tell me where the fucking aha is. Anyway, moving on. All right. With that said, the military did not seem to be taking the threat seriously. The briefing cautioned safety training, both for gun crews and medical personnel, was so deficient. It said that the risks of repeated blast explosion are seemingly ignored. Despite the concerns raised by the report, no one appears to have warned the commanders responsible for the gun crews, and no one told the hundreds of the troops who had fired the rounds. Of course not. I mean, why would they tell us? You know what I mean? So that way, who wants to have that? You know, God forbid that they have that documented in their fucking charts so that when they get out, they can have it combat related. Because in the fucking VA system, if that bitch is not documented as service connected, don't even worry about. Dude, they try to tell me that I did not have hearing loss. They told me that that was because of my TBI. That because of the TBI, my brain is not acknowledging the words, and it's just taking forever for my brain to process what I hear. And then, of course, they put TBI and they said that the PTSD intermingle together. So because of those two, they can't diagnose it one way or the other because it seems like it's a symptom of the PTSD. Either way, they find a way to fuck you guys. Okay. Just know that if you're putting down TBI and PTSD, they're gonna link them together. They're gonna give you either a 0 or a 1 on TBI, and then they're gonna fucking put whatever the symptoms are, the other symptoms, into your fucking PTSD and mix it that way. Believe that. Um, that's how they did my ass, anyways. Good OVA and their VA math. Anywho, moving on. Oh, let's see. It says it right here, right? Um, da-da-da. Hundreds of rounds instead of case by case. No. Okay. So despite the concerns raised in the report, no one appears to have one of the commanders. Okay, I just read that, right? All right. Instead, in case after case, the military treated crews' combat injuries as routine psychiatric disorders. There you go. If they treated them at all, troops were told they had attention deficit disorder or depression. Many were given potent psychotropic drugs that made it hard to function and failed to provide much relief. Yep. I'll tell you, first thing they're going to do is throw you on that Zoloft and max that out. Then they're going to fucking throw you on that Fexler, anyways, they're going to throw you on all kinds of shit. And then they're going to tell you, oh, we have to find which one works with you best to stabilize you. And dude, some will have you fucking zombied out and you will not be you. And once you get hooked on them, you'll know. You will know that if you miss one day of taking that fucking drug, you will start going through withdrawals and you will learn about brain zaps. Holy shit, those are the worst. God forbid you go more than one day, you're gonna be having night sweats. It sucks. So if you can, try to avoid taking fucking psychotropic drugs. To me, honestly, I just call them my anti-asshole drugs, because they just keep me at a level of not exploding like I used to. But the hypervigilance is still fucking there. The mistrust in people is still fucking there. Anyways, that's another topic for another day. We're talking about this right now. So, many were given potent psychotropic drugs that made it hard, to function and failed to provide relief. What the fuck? Huh? All right. Anyways, so moving on. Others started acting strangely after the deployments and were simply dismissed as problems, punished for misconduct, and forced out of the military in punitive ways that cut them off from veterans' health care benefits that they now desperately need. That's the fucked up part right fucking there, y'all. Right there. These cats were looked at as shitbags now because of the issues that they had, and they can't even get the motherfucking benefits that they earned. You know what I mean? So can you blame these cats for trying to find a way to self-medicate when they're being ignored? But now they're self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, and what happens? Oh, they're shitbags all of a sudden. You know what? Maybe they weren't shitbags. They were just fucking mishandled by their leadership. But then you can't even blame their motherfucking their battery level leadership, because they weren't being told by the senior leadership that this shit was being looked into. All they checked was their medical records. They didn't go and interview the motherfucking soldiers that were being affected. This is bullshit, man. The Marine Corps has never commented publicly on the findings of the study. It declined to say who ordered it or why, and would not make the staff members who conducted it available for interviews. Officers who were in charge of the artillery batteries declined to comment for this article or did not respond to interview requests. I wonder why. I wonder fucking why. The silence has left affected veterans trying to figure out for themselves what is happening. Many never have. Lance Corporal Powell, who was hearing things in his room, left the Marines and became a tow truck driver in Kentucky. But he kept having paralyzing panic attacks on the road. In 2018, a year and a half after returning from Syria, he shot himself. Rest easy, brother. His neighbor in the barracks, Lance Corporal Zapoy, moved back to his parents' house in Minnesota and started college. In 2020, he began hearing voices and seeing hidden images in the street signs. A few days later, in the grips of psychotic delusion, he entered a house he had never been in before and killed a man he had never met. When the police arrived, they found him wandering barefoot in a driveway. As they handcuffed him, he asked, "Are you going to take me to my moon? Are you going to take me to the moon?" He was found not guilty of murder by reason of mental illness in 2021 and was committed to a locked ward in the Minnesota Security Hospital. He is still there today. What the fuck, dude? That's the thank you for your service that we fucking get from our own fucking government. Oh my God, I was out of my mind. There was no understanding of what was happening, he recalled in a recent interview from the hospital, rubbing his fists against his temple. I'm angry because I tried to get help in the Marines, he said. I knew something was wrong, but everybody just kind of blew it off. When Lance Corporal Ortiz started seeing a ghost a few days after returning from Syria in 2017, it didn't occur to him that he'd been hurt by his own cannon. Instead, he was convinced that the enemy had put a hex on him. He tried to purify himself by lighting a fire on the beach near Camp Pendleton and burning his old combat gloves and journal from the deployment. But after the ashes cooled, the ghost was still there. For the next 4 years, he tried to play down his problems and make a career in the Marine Corps. He started a family. He was promoted to sergeant. He received a diagnosis of PTSD and was given various medications, but his panic attacks and hallucinations persisted. He started to have problems with his heart and digestion too. He eventually asked for a transfer to the Special Medical Battalion set up to give Marines who are wounded in combat a place to recover. but there was little in his record to suggest that he had seen combat or been wounded. His request was denied. On Friday night in October, I'm sorry, one Friday night in October 2020, he was having visions that ghosts were trying to pull him into another dimension. He stretched out naked on his kitchen floor, hoping the cool touch of the towels would restore his grip on reality. It didn't work. In a panic, he called a cousin who had served in Iraq. His cousin said that always worked for his PTSD was marijuana. Sergeant Ortiz bought some at a civilian dispensary. Though using marijuana as a crime in the military, he took a few puffs, relaxed, and went to sleep. The next day, he admitted to his commanding officer what he had done. He apologized to and told her that he had already referred himself to the Marine Substance Abuse Program. The Marine Corps has regulations to ensure that the Marines who break the rules because of PTSD or brain injuries are not punished for their missteps if their conditions makes them unfit for duty. But records show that the Marine Corps decided Sergeant Ortiz had no qualifying injuries. Jesus Christ. In 2021, he was forced out for willful misconduct and given an other than honorable discharge that cut him from access to therapy, medication, disability payments, and support intended for wounded veterans. This spring, he and his family were squatting in a house in Kissimmee, Florida, that was going through foreclosure. The lights were off and the kitchen sink was overflowing with dishes. He stammered as he tried to recount his experiences with the memory he says is now full of blanks. He has two young children and he struggled to hold a job. Bills have piled up, the headaches are crushing, he said, and he feels that his memory is becoming worse. When asked about the apparition of the dead girl, he started to cry and lowered his voice so his wife wouldn't hear. He admitted that he still saw the ghost and other things. I gave the Marine Corps everything, he said, and they spit me out with nothing. Damaged, damaged, very damaged. God damn, dude. This type of shit right here is what really fucking it's really aggravating and annoying, hearing these stories like that of our fucking brothers and sisters out there being denied. And then that cunt of a fucking commander said that, you know, it, he reached out to his fucking commander and that cunt said no and then forced his ass out with a other than honorable. I mean, that's after all the shit that they done did. All right, we're still going push through this. I appreciate y'all still listening to me. If you guys are putting up with my reading, thank you. Firing weapons is fundamental to the military service as tackling is to football. And research has started to reveal that as with hits in football, repeated blast exposures from firing heavy weapons like cannons, mortars, and shoulder fire rockets, and even larger caliber machine guns cause irreparable injury to the brain. It is a sprawling problem that the military is just starting to come to grips with. The science is still in its infancy, but evidence suggests that while the individual blast rippling through the brain tissue may not cause obvious lasting injury, repeated exposure appears to create scarring that eventually could cause neural connections to fail. According to Gary Kamimori, a senior Army blast researcher who retired recently after a career studying the problem. All right, so finally we're going to get into the gist of what's causing this shit, all right? So I guess they give us that as a foundation so we could understand what some of these soldiers went through, or these Marines, I'm sorry, have gone through. And now we're going to see what the outcome is. Think of it like a rubber band, he said. Stretch a rubber band 100 times and it bounces back. But there are micro tears forming. The 101st time, it breaks. Those blasts might never cause a person to see stars or experience other signs of concussion, but over time may lead to sleeplessness, depression, anxiety, and other symptoms that in many ways resemble PTSD. according to Dr. Daniel Pearl, a neuropathologist who runs a defense department tissue bank and preserves dead veterans' brains for research. That's a fucked up thing that you're gonna hear in this shit too. That the only way they can fucking see this is post mortem. So they can't even tell if somebody's injured with this because they can't check into your brain until you're dead. They got to cut that bad boy open. It's common to mistake blast injury in the brain for something else because when you walk into a clinic, it looks like a lot of other things, Dr. Pearl said. His lab has examined samples from hundreds of deceased veterans who were exposed to enemy explosions and blasts from firing weapons during their military careers. The researchers found a unique and consistent pattern of microscopic scarring. Microscopic scarring, y'all. All right, I got to pause this. I got the dogs in. Give me 1 second. All right, and I am back here. So, anyways, we're just talking about the scarring, right? So, microscopic scarring. Finding the pattern in living veterans is another matter. There is currently no brain scan or blood test that can detect the minute injuries, Dr. Pearl said. The damage can be seen only under microscopes of service members who have died, or once a service member has died. So there is no definitive way to tell whether a living person is injured. Even if there were, there is no therapy to fix it. How fucked up is that, okay? There's a lot of veterans out there that are going through this shit. A lot, and it might put a big perspective into some of the shit that you guys are going through as veterans. If you were artillerymen and you're wondering, like, dude, if I never saw any combat, why are they diagnosing me with PTSD? I mean, it's cool and all because you're going to get rated by the VA, which helps you out. But at the end of the day, it's not helping you out with they're putting you on drugs that you don't fucking need. You know what I mean? So there's no way to fucking treat it. And that sucks balls. Cause like you said, it gives the symptoms of PTSD, but it's not PTSD. I mean, that's fucked up. So, anyways, the lab hasn't examined any brains from artillery units sent to fight in the Islamic State, but Dr. Pearl said that he would not be surprised if many of them were affected. You have blast waves traveling at the speed of sound through most complex and intricate organ of the body. Wouldn't you think there would be some damage? The military for generations has set maximum safe blast exposure levels, cares for eardrums and lungs, but never for brains. Go figure. Anything that didn't leave the troops dazed was generally considered safe. But that has recently changed. Over the last decade, veterans suffering from brain injury like symptoms after years of firing weapons pressured Congress to rethink the potential dangers, and lawmakers passed a number of bills from 2018 to 2022, ordering the Pentagon to start a sprawling warfighter brain health care or health initiative to try to measure blast exposures and develop protocols to protect troops. There is definitely a clear awareness this can be considered a brain health threat, said Kathy Lee, Director of Casualty Management for the Office of Health Affairs and the Defense Department, who oversees the initiative. In response to other questions, the Times, both the Army and Marine Corps acknowledged that some gun crews were injured by blasts during the fight against the Islamic State. In part of that experience, the branches say they now have programs to track and limit crews' exposures. But one Marine officer currently in charge of the artillery battery questioned whether that was accurate. He said recently that he has never seen or heard of the new safety guidelines and that nothing was being done to document his troops' blast exposure. The officer, who asked that his name not be used because he was not authorized to speak publicly, said he was experiencing splitting headaches and small seizures, but was worried that his injuries would not be acknowledged because there was no documentation that he was ever exposed to anything dangerous. Ain't that a bitch? Now, I mean, as an officer, I don't see an officer really on the gun line that often. I mean, yeah, they would go down. The PL would go down every once in a while and sit behind the guns. But normally they would be out in, at the FTC track or with the FTC. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. or if not, they'd be chilling in their Humvees. I can a handful of times I remember seeing a PL at my gun. So literally count on my hand in a 10-year career. So, but anyways, but I'm not taking anything away from this officer because I mean the concussion, you could feel that shit. Depending on the charge too, you will feel that shit, man. And it's a beast, bro. It's a fucking beast. And thankfully they're starting to look at that shit so that you future artillerymen and women, or just artillerymen in general, put y'all in the same category. All you future red legs have some kind of fucking way of being taken care of, especially with your noggin. In short, he said, there is little in military regulations now that might stop what happened to the artillery troops in Syria and Iraq from happening again. That's some shit, dude. I think I've read enough of this. Um let's see, the resulting blast was several times louder than a jet taking off. Okay, let's see what it says here. The people running this war made a choice, said Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan O'Gorman, a Marine officer who oversaw the artillery operations in the offensive and now teaches strategy at the U.S. Naval War College. And choices have consequences. Alpha Battery troops set up their big guns in March 2017 in a dirt field in Syria within sight of enemy-controlled city of Raqqa, and almost immediately started firing. They rarely stopped for the next 2 months. Night and day, they hurled rounds using some of the military's most sophisticated cannons, M777 Alpha 2 howitzers, the 35-foot long guns, had modern, precisely designed titanium parts and digital targeting systems. When it came to protecting their crew, the design had changed little in a century. Try over a century, bro. I mean, we still stand to the side of the cannon and shoot that shit. Oh man. Gun crew still worked within the arm's reach of the barrel and fired the gun by pulling a simple cord. It's not a cord, it's a fucking lanyard. God damn. Oh, we pull a string. It's a fucking lanyard, guy. The resulting blast, several times louder than a jet taking off, and unleashed a wave that hit crews like a kick in the chest. Ears rang, bones shivered, vision blurred as eyeballs momentarily compressed, and ripples shot through the neuron brain like a whip crack. I don't know what that means. So let's see. I'll read a couple more. So, in the spring of 2017, 2 months after coming home from firing thousands of rounds in Iraq, Sergeant First Class Tyler Chatfield went missing in Kentucky. He was a senior soldier in Charlie Battery of the Army's 1st Battalion, 320th Field Artillery Regiment. The battery had fired a stunning number of rounds against the Islamic State and then returned to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. In February 2017, just as the Marines were deploying, at Fort Campbell, soldiers were struggling to sleep and were stalked by hard-edged anxiety that sometimes veered into panic. Everyone was screened for PTSD and brain injury. The test showed nothing unusual. Of course, like I said, because we're gonna be all it is did you do this? Did you do that? Yes, no, yes, no. All right. So Iraq was Sergeant Chatfield's third deployment, and his wife knew that homecomings could be rough, but this one seemed okay. He was relaxed, loving, engaged. He was coaching Little League and building a chicken coop in the backyard. Then one morning he was at the gym and his heart started racing like a jackrabbit. Cold sweat poured down his neck and he started to vomit. He was sure he was having a heart attack. He was 26 years old. His wife took him to the hospital. Other than some inflammation, cardiologists found nothing wrong. He went home and a few days later had another heart attack. Maybe it's anxiety, a doctor suggested, and he prescribed Xanax. Traumatic brain injuries can have profound effects on on parts, on parts of the body that are nowhere near the skull, because the damage can cause communication with other organs to malfunction. Dozens of young veterans interviewed by the Times said they now had elevated irregular heartbeats and persistent painful problems with their digestion. Wow. Okay, this opens up a lot of fucking eyes for me. I'll tell you what. This opens up a can of worms. The next few days, for the sergeant were quiet. He took pills and rested. He roasted marshmallows in the backyard with his boys. Then he was gone. He wasn't in bed when his wife woke up on Thursday morning after the attack. He wasn't at work either. The army and local police went out looking for him. His wife was sure he would show up to coach his son's afternoon baseball game, but in the ninth inning, she was still scanning the parking lot. She felt so uneasy at the end of the game that she asked another soldier to escort her home. The soldier went into the house first and emerged a few minutes later, shaking his head. He had found Sergeant Chatfield's body in the garage behind a stack of boxes. The sergeant had taken his own life. He left a short goodbye text, but said nothing that shed the light on his decision. The Army investigated, but didn't uncover anything that his wife, Jane Chatfield, felt could explain it. None of it made any sense, she said in an interview. I don't know why it happened. I don't think I ever will. All four of the artillery batteries examined by the Times have had at least one suicide, a striking pattern since death by suicide is even in high risk populations. Some batteries have had several, and many service members said in interviews that they had tried to off themselves. A friend of Sergeant Chatfield's, Sergeant Joshua James, changed from an easygoing young father to an alcoholic afflicted by anxiety and headaches. He seemed to grow worse every year. In 2021, an MRI detected an abnormality deep in his brain, but doctors said they were not sure what caused it and what could be done. In November 2022, he was on a road trip with his family when he got into an argument with his wife. With no warning, he shot himself in the drive-through of a fast food restaurant. The man who deployed never really came back, Lindsay James said. The sergeant's wife said in an interview in her home in Tennessee, he was a different person. He never understood what was happening to him. I don't think the Army did either. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here because it's really a long, long article. If you want to read it, go ahead and go into the On the Gunline Facebook, and there's still much more there regarding some others that were given um, PTSD diagnosis. So anyway, y'all, it's really something that needs to be taken care of. It really need, if you're an artilleryman, all right, and you fired a shitload of rounds, and I'm not talking about fucking, inside the Paladin. Inside the Paladin, I don't mean to downplay this. I was in the Paladin for fucking 6 years. We don't get the concussion as bad as motherfucking well, the gun crew, I would say. Now, if you're still fucking running powders out there, I can see that happening. All right. But I just don't see it. If you're outside of the gun, I see it. But if you're inside of the gun, I don't see inside the Paladin. 119er crews, 777 crews, and also 198 crews. I would definitely go get checked out, dude. Especially if you were out in the stand or in Iraq and fired a fuckload of rounds. Definitely go get that shit checked out. At least start getting it written into or documented into your paperwork. Because like you saw, I mean, that officer said that that there's been no motherfucking safety measures brought down, no safety measures talked about. And let me know what y'all think out there, world. Let me know what y'all think, and if you dig like this type of pod the way I'm doing it right now, let me know, man. I mean, if y'all want me to start like researching articles and shit and reading them, actually, I prefer y'all to send them to me because that way I know I'm reading something that you guys suggest. So shout out again to Sergeant Watts, Sergeant First Class Watts, Smoke Watts. Well, he's not a smoke anymore because he's not on the gun line. But anyways, shout out to Watts, man. I appreciate you, baby. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to call it a day because I got to start dinner. It's already gonna be 5 o'clock over here. It's 4:51 p.m. If you hung with me this far, I appreciate it. It's definitely a trip, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that last podcast too with the homie. It kind of goes into why he ended up not staying in. Now that I think about it, dude, if we go back into the whole issue of why retention rates are so fucked up. If you listen to old Dickie fucking Duke, he ended up getting out because they were trying to play him like a fucking puppet, not giving him what he wanted. You know what I'm saying? Come on, y'all. But now you want to go ahead and start getting these motherfuckers back with the Rona. Anywho, um, I appreciate you staying with me this whole time and pushing through with my reading. I know I got a fucking fifth grade level of reading, but that's because it was really far away instead of up here. I'm old and my eyes are trying to make out words. Or as maybe, the VA will say that it's because of my TBI and I'm not fucking understanding shit correctly. Anywho, hey, hit me up with any thoughts that you have. Do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, whether it's on the podcast platforms or if you're on YouTube. Make sure you comment. I would love to. I don't care if you comment 1,000 times. Like the homie Roland, that motherfucker, he on it, and I appreciates it. Let's get that algorithm going. Let's keep on growing, and that's all I got for y'all today, man. Thank you for hanging out here under my net, or in between my trails here on the gun line within my section. Your favorite chief is saying rounds complete, intermission, and gun line out. March order, y'all. Deuces.